It is such a privilege for Cher and I, as your ministers, to believe very sincerely that we are leading you in the right direction, theologically. It's important to us, and I know it's important to you. All of us have grown up on what Cher and I call embedded theology for much too long. And so if some of the things we say, particularly for the new folks who are here, seem a bit lunatic fringe, just know that humankind has been so off-center for so long that the truth may appear a bit weird. And just want to say with absolutely no apology that it is Cher and my intent to move not only you guys, but the unity movement as a whole, and thus the world to follow in a much better and more enlightened direction. And as one of our visitors said this morning when she walked in here, that this is the right place. Folks, Cher and I, one of the reasons we're here is because we believe this is the epicenter for the enlightenment of the world. Wow. Right here. So this morning we're going to talk about turtle theology. A real deep subject. And we're going to ask all of you to come out of your shell. Sorry. Harriet was believed to be one of the world's oldest living feminists. She made her transition, though, at the ripe old age of 166 years old. She was a member of a family at the Queensland-based Australian Zoo, owned and operated by Steve and Terry Irwin. Now, you may remember the late Steve Irwin by his professional name, Crocodile Hunter. Well, Harriet was adopted by them, and the grand old lady was also a grand old 375-pound tortoise. Wow. She was reputed to have been one of the 3 tortoises taken from the Galapagos Islands by Charles Darwin on his historic 1835 mission there. At the time, Harriet was no larger than a small dinner plate. The Irwins considered her a member of their family, and anyone who has pets knows what that means. They very definitely are a member of your family. Cher and I had a pet dog, Beagle Bassett, and she made her transition, and we still haven't gotten over it entirely. She was very definitely a wise old soul who came to us to teach us love and patience, and she did a good job with that. As a matter of fact, I still remember, as you know, beagles have a very distinct "ow." That's beagle for namaste. Whenever we hear a beagle howl, even today, we think about Cleo and how much we loved her and she loved us. In a very real sense, all of Mother Nature's creatures are our relatives, our brothers and sisters. And Susan Grable agrees. She's a woman we met. She works at Duke University at their hospital. Beautiful lady with a beautiful heart. We mention her because she has wrangled kittens out of trees and has rescued orphaned possums and has mended broken wings of birds all her life. And she's the kind of person who sees a turtle playing Frogger across the road and stops to pick up the turtle and make sure it gets across the road safely. Well, on one occasion, she saved a turtle from a turtle napping. She was on her lunch hour at Sarah P. Duke Gardens and was watching a yellow-bellied glider, which is a small turtle that lives in the water, being kidnapped by 2 women and their 3 children. They sneaked up on the unsuspecting sunbather and grabbed it off the bank, put it into a plastic zip-up bag, and put it in their stroller. That was their intention. Well, Susan decided to intervene. And she jumped up and ran toward the group and shouted at them, "Put it back! Put it back!" And the younger of the two women said, "Put what back?" "The turtle," Susan said. "Put the turtle back." As she continued to move toward them. The women stared at her for a moment and then threw the plastic bags, turtle and all, into the pond. Well, Susan jumped into the pond very quickly and retrieved the bag, unzipped the bag, and made sure the turtle was fine, and then let it glide away to safety. As she turned around, she looked at the women who were also gliding away. As fast as they could, pulled the children with them and pushed the strollers. We share these turtle stories with you because this morning, as I mentioned, our talk is called Turtle Theology. As a matter of fact, unity theology is really turtle theology. The theology Cher and I teach is turtle theology because when you think about it, we carry our spiritual home with us everywhere we go, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We are never homeless. We're always home, unless we choose not to go there, unless we choose, as we've been taught, to look somewhere else, outside of us, for that guidance. Well, 1 Corinthians 3:16 says, God's Spirit lives as us. And our song this morning, "You are God." We don't have to look anywhere for God except inside of us. James 1:21 says, "Welcome with reverence the implanted word." The King James Version, the same verse says, "Welcome with reverence the engrafted word." So you see, the word has been us all of our lives at our birth. Metaphysically, word now means, it's interesting, as I mentioned about the direction we're going here, folks. We've all been taught that the word, based on the Greek word logos, is Jesus, a man, is the written word of God. In the original Aramaic, and certainly metaphysically, the word means vibration, expression, not anything spoken. Although the spoken word is vibration, but this is even more elemental than that. The word is vibration. Colossians 1:27 is our co-founder Charles Fillmore's favorite verse, which says, "Christ in us is our hope of glory." Well, in our bumped up theology, we say that the Christ in us is really saying Christ expressing as us. The enfleshed Christ presence as us. The Christ principle manifest as us is what that verse really means. And the hope of glory that it refers to is not public acclaim. It's not fame. And it certainly isn't a celestial city with pearly gates in the sky that has streets of gold. It's not that kind of physical thing at all. The hope of glory mentioned in Colossians 1:27 is actually the actualization, the fulfillment of our conscious awareness of our innate divinity. When we realize that we are the Christ expressing at the point of us, we are glorified. Not by something external, but by something very innate within us. That's what that means. And by the way, the celestial city referred to in Revelation 21 is actually our quickened, our illumined, our enlightened superconsciousness, which is also within us. That's heaven, by the way. The kingdom of God within us is our enlightened superconsciousness, our Christ consciousness, another way of saying it. Now gold, we talked about the streets of gold. Gold means purified consciousness. Illumination, that's what gold means. It's what it stands for. The streets of gold refers to our central and peripheral nervous systems. If you can imagine in your mind's eye the brain and the spinal cord, which is our main thoroughfare, our street of gold. And then all the nerve fibers that go throughout our entire body are the streets of gold. That's what that means. When we are quickened, when we are illuminated, that is the street of gold. And heaven is not out there. Heaven is within us. People today misread the entire New Testament if they fail to realize that its central message, are you ready for this, is total theology. Our home is within us. You will hear Cher and me emphasize again and again that the only difference, now hear me say this, and I mean this sincerely, the only difference between the Christ as Jesus, the Christ as Gandhi, the Christ as the Dalai Lama, the Christ as Helen Keller, and the Christ as us, is that those folks became more actualized, consciously recognizing their innate divinity. That's it. That's the only difference. They were not superhuman beings. They were not beings that came down from out there someplace. They were beings just like us. And there's hope for us because of that. There's hope for all of us because of that. It is not, Revelation is not a doomsday manual. I'm writing now metaphysical interpretation, chapter by chapter, verse by verse, for the book of Revelation. Hopefully it'll be out in September. I'm looking forward to sharing that with you. Revelation is not a doomsday book at all. By the way, a literal translation of Revelation is so dumbed down that I think they may have used it as the script for the movie Dumb and Dumber. Now ask me how I really feel about what the fundies have done in Revelation. The fundies, I say affectionately, are the religious fundamentalists, the term I use to describe them. I invite you to repeat after me. I am divine at my core.
I am divine at my core.
Turn to the person sitting next to you and say, you are divine at your core.
You are divine at your core.
Now in unison say, we are divine at our core.
We are divine at our core.
And as you have affirmed it,
so it is.
Humankind has the potential to become consciously one with their innate core, their innate divinity. It's just simply a matter of choice that we all have to make. Our consciousness is a gateway, a stargate to our enlightenment. And like Harriet and the yellow-bellied glider that we talked about earlier, we carry our home with us to work, to the golf course, to the grocery store, in here, to downtown Greensboro, to music in the park, because we carry our home with us everywhere we go. The good news is, too, that we are all homeward bound because we're bound to go home. And the recipe for that trip is about to be shared with you right now.
With all this talk about turtles, I have to share that. I don't usually do joke kind of things, but this just keeps coming into my head. There is this amazing story told of a baby elephant and a baby turtle. And they were together drinking and enjoying themselves at a little lake. And all of a sudden, for no reason at all, this little baby turtle just reaches over and bites the tail of the baby elephant really hard. Okay, now fast forward many, 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 many years. That same elephant, now all grown up, is hanging out at the same little pond with his buddy, the giraffe. And they're having a good time, and all of a sudden, here comes that same turtle. And the elephant took one look, reared back his leg, and kicked that turtle way back into the forest. And the giraffe is just staring at the elephant and says, man, why did you do that? And the elephant said, I gotta tell you, that turtle, when we were little babies, bit me on my tail, and it hurt. And the giraffe is not believing this. The giraffe said, you must have an amazing memory. And the elephant says, actually, I have turtle recall. I'm glad nobody has anything to say. grow. But we want you to have turtle recall about something that's really important. We want you to have turtle recall that you are God expressing, and that is so important. And we do carry our home with us, and that's why Bill and I feel like the term turtle theology is so important. So what we're going to do is share with you a special recipe that we've cooked up. It's a recipe called Turtle Theology Soup. Now, disclaimer, absolutely no turtles have been injured in the making of this talk or this recipe. All right, just so you know, you're safe. But it includes a lot of active ingredients that we want to share. And at the end of the service, you will be getting your recipe card that you can take with you that actually has this recipe on it. And you don't even have to use your kitchen to do this. All right? You can carry the recipe as well as your home menu. So let's look at the recipe and what it has to say. At the risk of using an acronym 2 weeks in a row, I promise I won't do this every week. But to help you remember the recipe ingredients, it does spell the word soup, S-O-U-P. That will help you remember it when you're working on it. So let's start with the S. The S is stick your neck out. So just like a turtle, the first thing we want to remember to do is stick our neck out. And this means we have to be willing to sometimes feel a little uncomfortable and put ourselves out there even if it doesn't feel quite safe yet. Y'all know what I mean? Yep. It's that feeling like we're being a little bit threatened. Yeah, this isn't quite where I'm comfortable. Because we carry our comfort zone. But to really be the oneness we are, we have to be willing to stretch that out just a little bit. And that means things like maybe being willing to interpret the scripture metaphysically. That may feel just a little uncomfortable initially. But hey, just stick out your neck. Praying with affirmation rather than begging. That may feel uncomfortable initially, but doesn't it feel great when you get used to it?
Yeah.
It just changes everything. But you have to be willing to feel uncomfortable to move through it to get to the next level. Let me give you a real quick example. This is from back in at the risk of giving my age away, 1986. Bill came to me with this idea of going firewalking. He found this place that was going to do a firewalk, and he really wanted to do it. He's the risk taker in this pair. And I said, okay, I'll tell you what. I will do it with you, and I will support you, but I probably am not going to walk myself. Now, here's what I was doing. I want you to be aware of what was happening here. I was allowing myself to stick my neck out, but not too far. In other words, I was making myself present for the situation, but I was giving myself permission at any moment to say no. And he was fine with that. So we went to this firewalk, and it was an incredible experience. And as I participated in the whole experience, I found my neck coming out further and further. And when the time came, first I watched Bill walk and celebrated that, and then I did it too. Oh, and it was incredible. It really was an incredible, amazing experience that moved our awareness of our oneness to a whole new level, and our confidence to a whole new level. But here's the real thing to remember. I didn't go with the intent to walk. I went with the intent to be present to the experience, to just take it in and see how it felt. And I gave myself permission at any point to do whatever I wanted, say yes or no. So we invite you to stick your neck out. Go to some classes that may feel, I don't know if I want to do that or not. Just go. Stick your neck out and see how it feels. Come to services and just stick your neck out. Sacred service, there's an opportunity to participate, and you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough to do that or if I have enough skill. Just stick your neck out a little bit and see what happens. And you will find yourself surrounded with people who want to support you and lift you in that. And you have permission to always say no. That's as far as I want to go. And that will be very welcome. So, first ingredient in turtle theology soup, stick your neck out. The second one is the O. Outwit the gremlins. Outwit the gremlins in your life. And you guys know who the gremlins are. The gremlins are those people who want to deny your divinity, or they want to challenge or chip away at your confidence, or they want to erode your enthusiasm for living. They want to tell you what's wrong with you. Our little tip for you, don't walk away from those people. Run. This is where you do more than turtle theology. nice if we could actually do that in every situation. Reality says sometimes we work with them. Sometimes they're part of our family. I mean, let's get real. It is. And we do have to be around them physically, but you do not have to give power to their beliefs. And that's the key. You have control of what you're thinking, what you're saying, what you believe. And there's a little technique that many of you in here, I'm sure, are already familiar with, but just in case. It's called the white light technique. And what we invite you to do is when you're around people who are these gremlins that are just chipping away at what you believe and they really want to make you feel like you're not enough, just imagine from your heart center this beautiful white light flowing out and around and surrounding your entire being. And that is like a protection that will not allow their energy to come through to you. You can be very present in the situation, but not affected by the negativity. So try that technique. And I know our healers are really familiar with this technique, and if you want to work with that, I bet they would be more than happy to help you with that, because there's so many ways. We have within us the power to outwit the gremlins. So we're going to S, which is
Stick our necks
stick
out.
out your neck. We're going with the O, which is outwit. And now we're coming to the U. The U is unitize your speaking. And I just want to commend Elaine. Elaine knows how to unitize speaking. Does she not with her music? The music here, we are so impressed because little words are changed here and there, and they are changed to reflect the theology we believe. Because if we're not speaking what we believe, we're creating cognitive dissonance in our mind. So we say we believe one thing, and yet if our words don't support it, you know the power of the word. We've got to change that, and we've got to look at how we're speaking. For example, Bill and I don't say fake it till you make it. Y'all heard that little phrase, fake it till you make it? I mean, who wants to be a fake, right? So we've shifted that to say faith it till you make it. Faith it till you make it. Instead of Christ, we behold the Christ in you, we like to bump that up and say we behold the Christ as you. And again, it's just a shift in raising consciousness and awareness. So just be aware. We don't want to get hyper about it and make people afraid to say anything or do anything, but it's a way, again, to just unitize your thinking. Because it's one thing when you say your affirmations consciously, but just realize that everything you say is actually an affirmation. You're using the power of affirmation. So if you say, I am so tired, you are affirming you are tired. You're using the power of affirmation, but you're not using it for your highest, most elevated level. So unitize your speaking. And that brings us to the final ingredient in the eternal theology soup, which is the P. And the P, you will not be surprised to hear, is to pray without ceasing. Pray without ceasing. In Unity, Lowell Fillmore, who was the son of Charles Fillmore, wrote an amazing book about prayer, and his comment throughout was, every thought a prayer. Every thought a prayer. Just imagine living in that place where every thought is a prayer. Now, we couldn't help but notice the prayer boxes up here, and I don't know how many of you are aware of this, but the prayer box is a place where you can put your prayer requests anytime you want. And it's usually out in the foyer. And there are prayer request forms in the back that you can just take, and they can be anonymous. You can put your name on if you want. But here's what's powerful about it. This is a box, but it has energy. It has the prayer energy of all the people who surround that. When we pray at the end of the service after the offering, we will also include prayers that are in that box. Prayers are there for 30 days, and prayer chaplains pray. And after 30 days, the prayers that are in this prayer box actually go to Silent Unity, which is in Kansas City, which is our world headquarters. And that Silent Unity, if you're not familiar, you will hear more and more about that from us. It's a fabulous organization. But they pray for another 30 days. They have 24/7 prayer going on around the prayers that are sent. So your requests and your affirmations are surrounded and uplifted in amazing ways. So we encourage you to take advantage of that. It's another way to use the amazing love energy that's present here. pray without ceasing. And that means for yourself as well. Just whenever you're in any situation that's uncomfortable, you know what your first choice should be? Prayer. Instead of worry, instead of frustration, instead of fear, the minute you're aware that there's something out of sync, make your first choice prayer. If you don't know what to say, make your first 2 words, thank you.
Right.
Because as soon as you say thank you, you may not even know what's going to follow, but it changes and shifts your consciousness like that. And all of a sudden, you're reconnected. So there you have it. That is the recipe, and remember to pick up your recipe card when you leave. But that's the recipe for turtle soup. And if you will take these ingredients, you actually begin to build something into your life. And you become what James Michener called masters in the art of living. I want to share with you how he described masters in the art of living, and I would invite you to use it as a benchmark for yourself. And just see, because I think he described unitics beautifully when he wrote this. He said, masters in the art of living draw no distinction between their work and their play, between their mind and their body, between their education and their recreation, between their love and their religion. They can hardly tell the difference. They simply pursue their vision of excellence in everything they do. And they leave it to other people to decide whether they are working or playing. Because to masters in the art of living, they are always doing both.
Wow. Good job. Very nice.
We affirm that you are masters in the art of living, and that you know how to stick out your neck, you know how to outwit the gremlins, you know how to unitize your speaking, and you know how to pray without ceasing. And as you build that recipe into your life and take it daily, you will master the art of living as you walk the spiritual path on practical feet. Blessings.